Campbell, I can't hear you.
Thank you, Artie. Good morning and welcome everyone to the Amvest Capital live webinar with South Atlantic Gold. South Atlantic trades on the venture as SAO and as JLRRF in the US. Hope you'll enjoy today's program. It will also be available in replay mode and at amvestcapital.com/replays. Feel free to chat in your questions in the question pane of GoToWebinar or simply email them in. You can try and ask the questions in real time. Amvest is a New York-based specialist investment management and corporate finance firm focused solely on the natural resource sector. Very important disclaimer, this call is most definitely for informational purposes only. We're pleased to have with us today, not one, but two people from South Atlantic, Douglas Morales and Marcelo Bartolocci. Making you presenter, Douglas, and if you two want to start your webcam, that would be good. Douglas is the president and CEO of the company and has nearly 20 years experience in publicly traded mining companies in Brazil and Canada. And Marcelo Bartolocci is a senior exploration manager. So with that, let's go through the story, Doug, and then we'll open it up to questions. And please send your questions in and we'll ask them in real time. Thank you.
Yes, thanks everyone, and thanks for joining the call. Thanks, Campbell, for hosting this one. So I'd like to start with some cautionary statements here as usual. So please do your homework, do your own research for everything that's stated in this presentation. So our company is a junior explorer and developer company with two assets in two different jurisdictions, one in Canada, it's called the Big Kid Project, the other one in Brazil. Our asset in Big Kid is a very early exploration stage asset. It is very interesting in terms of land. There's 4,000 hectares there. There is a 2.5 kilometer anomaly that was identified. There's a lot of surface copper results that were identified throughout this project. There's some drilling that has been done. There's historical information there that we identified. There's a shaft that was put in 1918, and they reportedly recovered 44 tons at 12% copper and 68% grams per ton of silver. So this asset is still very early exploration. It's an interesting asset. We're taking a second look at it right now, like you should have seen our latest press release on it. And our second asset, it's a much more advanced stage when compared to Big Kid. It's called the Pedra Branca project in Brazil. This asset in Brazil is massive. It's 40,000 hectares. And within this 40,000 hectares, there's a 40-kilometer long shear zone there with 3 well-defined targets, 25 prospective tenements. There was a lot of work that was done to date. There's what's important here for Brazil, there's a near infrastructure, there's paved roads, there's actually a road that crosses to the east of this entire tenement zone here. There's power line, there's some mine supply suppliers nearby. There is access to water. There's in terms of historical, is some of our recent drilling, there's been a lot of good results. We have identified some high-grade zones as well. And most importantly for Pedra Branca, I'd say, there is maiden resource coming, okay? And we repeatedly stated this, that's coming right now before the end of this quarter. So we are listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange, Venture Exchange, under the ticker SAO. And people actually ask me a lot about listing on the OTC, and that is something that we're seriously considering for the second semester of this year. It will depend obviously on financing, our strategy, and what we're going to do next, but we are taking a serious look at it. But what I would like to call attention on this slide here is our share price valuation. So this company, before it became Southland Gold, this was basically a shelf company sitting at a very low valuation. And all of a sudden, we announced the deal with Jaguar Mining, a joint an option earning agreement with Jaguar Mining, and that basically made the stock to jump and more than quadruple its price, to be honest. And basically, ever since, we made a very efficient and very focused exploration program. We didn't put a lot of news out there, and obviously with the gold price as it was going down a little bit, so the share price went down a little bit. Now, if you ask me, I think that even the share valuation at 18 cents in October was very low compared to what these assets are. But ever since we concluded our exploration program in March, actually early April, and then we started getting some results afterwards, we're starting to put out some interesting press releases. And even though gold price is still trending downwards, our share price is trending upwards, which is what you expect with a company valuation at this size. I want to really state here something that if you ask a lot of CEOs out there, they'll always tell you the same thing, which is they've got the best team ever for their projects. But what I would like to really entertain here is do your research, do your homework, because when you identify these leaders, the directors, what you have to look for is actual leadership experience or people that took projects or took mining projects or took exploration projects throughout all these stages up until multi-billion-dollar valuation companies. So we have quite a few members here that were very successful. I would say that within all of them here, with the exception of Oliver, I'm probably, with 15 years, I'm probably the least experienced here with this entire group. But what's important to highlight here is that between me and Marcelo, so Marcelo is my partner there in terms of exploration. He's our senior exploration manager with focus a lot in the actually throughout his career. He worked with a virtually unlimited budget in Brazil for many different big companies, and we're very fortunate to have him in our team. And between me and Marcelo, we can really navigate through all the intricacies of Brazil. And for people that know Brazil, they understand that the country is not for rookies. I actually heard this many times. So in a nutshell, what have we done here in the past few months? We obviously took a project called Pedra Branca from Jaguar Mining Inc. I'm actually got asked this question many times, is why did Jaguar give away Pedra Branca? And in all honesty, this comes back from a Jaguar that was actually under dire straits. This was back in 2019. Jaguar was in serious issues, so they were actually farming out every one of their projects. They actually hold on to Pedra Branca up until the last moment but then eventually they ended up farming it out as well. Most recently they've been selling their royalties on other projects and everything else. So what we did is we took this project gladly, and basically we took it at inexpensive. So all we had to do was basically complete a $1 million exploration program on the ground. And if we complete that, and if we also deliver a resource, we could reach 100% ownership of this project, pending a few royalties for Jaguar. So we actually started that back in October. We changed the company name, made a bunch of changes on the board in November, rebranded the company, and then in February we announced something that was extremely important for Pedra Branca, and I will explain more about it. But the validation of the historical drilling and the historical data that was there, it was a fundamental step in the success or the future success of Pedra Branca. And now for 2021, actually the semester of 2021, we're looking for this 100% earn-in. As you know, we're looking for the resource, the maiden resource for Pedra Branca, which is going to set the real basis to go into the phase 2 and potentially drill Big Kid. Now, phase 2 here, I really believe is going to be one of the most exciting phases for Pedra Branca. So in a nutshell, why Southland Gold? So I can't stress enough how attractive our share price is right now, especially with the imminent catalyst that we have with the maiden resource, and also going into the phase 2 exploration program. Because once we are in the middle of the phase 2 exploration program, I personally believe it's already going to be too late, okay, for you to come into our company. So, and with that, we also have, these two massive assets. So in total, we got almost 45,000 hectares of land to explore. One asset is early copper exploration asset in British Columbia. The other one is a much later stage, the Pedra Branca in Brazil. And as I said, we got this earned incoming, we got the maiden resource, and on top of that, which I believe to be actually one of the most important points of any company in a long-term basis, is an experienced management. Because an experienced management is going to be able to dynamically adapt the company to market changing conditions. And I think this is paramount to every company out there. So having people that are entrepreneurs like myself, or people that have dealt with multiple different problems, especially in tough jurisdictions like Brazil, is going to be paramount to this company's successes. So I want to start off a little bit here with Pedra Branca. So Pedra Branca, for the ones of you who here doesn't know, is located on the Ceara State of Brazil. And what's usually known for the northern part of Brazil is that it's usually a poor part of Brazil. You don't have a lot of infrastructure, you don't have paved roads. People that have mining companies, they go in through some very serious, tough challenges there. You got challenges with the rainforest, challenges with the rain. And the good thing about Pedra Branca is we don't have all those challenges. And actually, it's quite the opposite. We're close to a capital with 2.6 million people. We're just 280 kilometers away. But even in between our projects, actually surrounding our projects in a 40-kilometer radius here, we've got 3 towns, and in total they have about 110,000 people. Okay. We also got power lines nearby. We got water supply. We got the mine supply centers and labor availability. In total, Pedra Branca, you're talking about 22 exploration licenses, and 3 of those are under the mining concession status. Now, here's what's important about these mining concessions. A lot of companies, when they go into Brazil for the first time, they look at these assets and say, oh, there's a mining concession, this is a late stage asset, I'm gonna go in, it's gonna be brilliant. But what usually happens is, company go in, they look at that, it's not 43101 certified, they don't certify the historical like they can, it's really tough for them to do that, and they end up with a very, very early stage exploration projects. And this is what I mean by, when we certified the historical drilling that was done here back in February, this is paramount. This is the hints that we needed to basically set the base and say, okay, we are on the right path, and we're going to continue chasing through the entire standards that we need to follow on a 4301 basis until we reach or expect to reach the mining concession status that's currently in Brazil. So it's really nice to have the plant design, the tailings dam, the pit, everything already set up in the license there in Brazil. And basically what Brazil wants us to do is start building right away. So that February and the historical results, I think it was paramount for this company. Now, what is the historical work? Okay, so we're talking about 90 holes and a total of 9 kilometers of diamond drilling. So a lot has been done down there. But again, that was not in accordance with the 42101 and could not be relied upon. And we actually certified everything that was mineralized out of that, out of those results. And what did that tell us? Okay, so when we look at our exploration program, we're talking a $1 million US exploration program. Okay, we got all the historical resource, and we got a 40-kilometer trend. So what we did something very efficient. We looked at the top 25 kilometers trend here. Okay, so you can see this map I put in. These are all our targets. The most defined targets are Mirador, COELHOS-QUEIMADAS, and IGREJINHA here. So these targets are the ones that we really focus our work, but it was really nice to identify, to have new findings and new things that we did. Now, again, I can't reiterate this enough. This is a $1 million exploration program for such a massive area. So there's only one thing we can focus on, which is efficiency. So we decided to do a lot of RC drilling here with an average depth of very surface. We're talking average depth of 40 meters. This is extremely at surface level. And our goal here was really to earn in this project, validate historical resources, and if we were so, I would say, so successful, we could have put in a maiden resource, which is what we're doing right now. Now, within this 25 kilometers trend, we got those 3 well-defined targets. There's another 5 prospective targets in the areas. Effectively, what we're finding here is a mesothermal shear gold, potential for shear gold zone deposit. The gold that we found here is identified in quarterlets veins parallel to the COELHOS-QUEIMADAS target. So you can see here on this little map, you got this trend that is going. You actually have 2 trends, and they keep going up, and apparently they go up until Bomberos. Another thing that's what's really interesting about this entire asset is that there's actually 2 trends that run in parallel, and they kind of go throughout all these targets here, as you can see, north from south to north, actually northeast. So a few of the highlights here that I'd like to put in for these 3 main targets is that they actually talk with each other. So there is a little bit of how can I put this? There's a little bit of a continuance within the geology of this entire zone here. And that was actually one thing that got our team really excited on there. So when they looked at all these parallel mineralized trends here, and they're all dipping at 45 degrees, you know, they're identifying that they're at least 80 meters depth, a lot of positive results. I mean, and they're connecting, and they're potentially connecting. That basically give us our next phase exploration program. So, giving you a little bit of a highlight in terms of IGREJINHA targets, our first major discovery for IGREJINHA is how can I put in here? All of our RC drill rigs that we put in IGREJINHA, 3 out of 4 of them came back with positive results. So this is very rare for a junior exploration company, but we were able to actually do a very efficient and very good work in it. One of the sorry, excuse me a minute. I'm just got a cup of water here. So one of our first intersections that we had at IGREJINHA, and this is again at surface, we're talking 29 continuous meters at 75% 75 grams per ton, or 0.73 grams per ton gold. And within that, you got 4 meters at 3.2 grams per ton gold. So what does it tell us? Okay, what does this tell us about IGREJINHA? It's a new finding, it's a new target. We announced this as a new discovery. Obviously, we're not looking at world-changing results here, but when you add all of this together in such a spread around RC drilling program, you can see that this starts to make the picture of what Pedra Branca really is. And it's the same for the COELHOS-QUEIMADAS target. So this is the one that Jaguar Mining focused a lot on their diamond drilling. We were able to validate these results. So you can see here, you got 12 meters at 7 grams per ton. But what's important here is that the deeper they went, then the deeper these holes or previous diamond drill holes went, the higher the average grade here. So that tells us that there is something and there's potential for this deeper exploration. But again, when you look at these meters here, you're looking at 152 meters. This is not so deep. This is actually, for a lot of companies, this is considered very surface information. So in total, what we have for Pedra Branca is over 200 drilling holes that was completed, 20,000 meters done, 12 kilometers of trenches. So trenches, for the one that are not too familiar with geology, trenches, what you consider here is like a horizontal hole made on the surface. So you can really get what's the ends, or actually the tipping points of all these mineralized zones. So if you have something on the surface, there's a very good chance there's something below it. And that's why we focus a lot on these trenches. And again, I can stress enough, the historical drill validation, that was fundamental for this company. So this is the map that we ended up with. So you can see from this map that we have all these little zones here that we define. I mean, we put a lot of RC on the ground. Again, keep in mind that $1 million exploration program, at the end of the day, we end up with over 600 intercepts here. So that is a lot of intercepts for this area. It is something that personally I was expecting, okay, something like this, because I was chasing, and we're continuing chasing, a program and actually an entire study that was put in by Jaguar and filed with the National Mining Agency. So this is our potential, and this is what the phase 1 end up with. So you can see the only reason why we don't have a better defined a trend here is because we have to do something really spaced in between. So we expect to have something. We got a lot of surface samples from all these from this entire trend, but effectively we can only look for definition out of these pockets here on the places that we put closer together the RC drilling. So that's how it works for Pedra Branca. So what do we expect right now? We expect to put out this maiden resource for Pedra Branca, and this will serve as a basis to go into the phase 2 exploration. And I really think that phase 2 is going to be one of the most exciting phases for Pedra Branca, because I believe it's going to be about filling in the gaps. So whatever resource we put out right now, and actually just an additional information, the resource that Jaguar put in with A&M that cannot be relied upon in terms of 4301 was about 150,000 ounces. So we validated that historical drilling, and now we're putting out this resource estimate. So what are we trying to say here? Where are we trying to put Pedra Branca in? Is a project, is an asset that you have a lot of drilling done on the surface, all these pockets being defined. Now imagine that if we, on the phase 2, we start to connect all these pockets together, you can quickly add up those ounces. So that's why I think our phase 2 is going to be one of the most exciting phases here. Now, going to a little bit about our copper project here, and the reason why I'm talking about Big Kid is because copper has been really trending high these days. And I think Big Kid, we actually been constantly being offered to farm it out, and people and other companies trying to buy Big Kid. And we actually, in the past 3 weeks here, we actually look a little bit in deeper to Big Kid. We looked at the data that was there, and it is a very early stage exploration program here. So Big Kid is really located, it's really located at very close to Merritt. So you can see here that there's a paved road that goes right in between it. There's power lines. Again, there's a power line there. There's access roads. There's a nearby mine supplies. There's actually a lot of mines that operate nearby. Actually, big copper mines that operated historically nearby. And what I want to highlight here about Big Kid is, and these are all historical data and the recent consolidations we have in this data without spending any money here, to be honest. We just took our own team here and looked at what we had on Big Kid, we saw that the recent drilling program here actually had some really nice intersections. And the other thing that we saw is that there is similarities with Big Kid and the recent finding of Kodiak copper at the MPD project that they have. So this tells us that whatever Kodiak copper came up with the exploration program, and we look at that and say it kind of makes a lot of sense to apply something similar to Big Kid, kind of got us a little bit more excited about the copper potential of this project. And when you add that to the historical shaft that was there, which they produced 44 tons with 12% copper, plus all the recent results. So we're talking very deep holes that were put in here. Well, actually not very deep. They went up until 600 meters. That's considered somewhat deep. And you got in total, some of these, like you got continuous, like 500 meters continuous at 0.09% copper, 0.28% grams per ton gold. So another 204 meters, same thing. Another 214 meters, same thing here. So I'm putting the highlights here. So you can see that Big Kid wants to tell a story, okay? And here's what looks like. So this is the main zones that were identified from previous exploration programs that they did. So you got the BK, the Breccia zone here on Big Kid, you got the Big Sioux zone, and you got the Dago zone. So all these zones here, they basically, you got a lot of early exploration results here, but we can see that there's some sort of a continuity, or there's some hints to be some continuity out of these results towards the deeper intersections. So what we notice is that the deeper they've got, the better the intersections here. Now, when we looked and compared Big Kid to the MPD gold copper exploration program that they did, we noticed that Big Kid has a lot of similarities there. So although we have these, so you can see these two maps here, we got these anomalies that were identified here at surface. When in between these anomalies, we actually have some higher and great results from the surface program that they did. So this tells us, and this hints to us, that at depth, that there's potential to have something there that connects these two zones, the Big Sioux, the Big Brother zone that we have, and the Breccia zone there. So, and this is what I mean by it. Okay, so you can see here to the left, you got the Big Brother zone. You can see this huge anomaly here, and there was a drill hole that was actually put in at 200 meters to the south of that anomaly here, so you can't see a lot of good results. But on the Breccia zone here, there's the hole called the 009, and you can see that you have a lot of intersections here at surface, then nothing, and then at depth, you have the end of this hole, 124 meters of continuous positive results there. Something actually quite good results. So what does this tell us? So you can see that there's a hint of a possible connection with this Big Brother zone and with the Breccia zone. So there is, we run this program on Leapfrog, we look at what it is, we put some estimations there, we played a lot of this, and there's potential for something in the ground, and there's potential for something similar to what Kodiak copper identified very close to Big Kid. It's actually 25 kilometers away from Big Kid. So, and again, this is another highlight. This is at surface, the zones that we have, the anomalies that we have. So you can see here, this is basically a crosscut here. So you can see the Breccia, and you can see the Big Brother, and now if you look at the deeper intersections, you can see that there's hints for a connection here at depth. So that's why we think that Big Kid deserves a second look. Now, what do we expect to do for the next 12 months? Okay, and this is the reason why we haven't put out the resource for Pedra Branca is that we're having it's actually going to come out very soon here, but we spend some time looking at the phase 2, okay, because we were so excited about phase 2. It makes a lot of sense, but it's something that we have to approach in a very efficient manner. You know, a company with our market size, we have to continuously be efficient. We can afford to take a lot of risks here. We have to be efficient. We have to chase down that mining license that Pedra Branca is under. So we expect to do here, we expect to put out the maiden resource. We expect to do an next financing right after it. If everything's successful, we expect to mobilize and possibly explore both assets at the same time. And within that, you're going to have ongoing, very interesting exploration results. And by the end of it, we expect to update the resource model of Pedra Branca. So if we're successful in connecting or filling up all these gaps, I think that's the future set for Pedra Branca. And then, you know, we start talking about the phase 3, which right now I haven't named as phase 2 exploration or phase 3 development, whatever it is. So I just put in as phase 3 right now. So in essence, what are we? We're a company that has a very attractive entry point. So if you compare our company to other junior companies out there, you can see that there's a huge difference here. So I think that once we put out this resource, even though it's from a $1 million exploration program, we're probably one of the very few junior companies out there with a resource set. We got these two assets with two very different potentials here. I mean, Big Hit being out in early stage, but being copper, there's a lot to talk about it. Pedra Branca being at a much later stage. You know the plans there. So we got this maiden resource, and as I said, which I consider to be, as an entrepreneur, what I consider to be the success or the ongoing success of a company that's growing is the experienced leadership. So I'd like to thank you at this point. Campbell, maybe we're open for questions.
Excellent. Thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes, excellent. A few questions that have come in, but please everyone send in your questions and we'll ask them. How leachable does the ore appear?
Sorry, what was the question?
How leachable does the ore appear?
Good question. Well, Marcelo, do you want to give some hints about that one? Is Marcelo on the call here? I haven't seen his join.
He is. If you want to join Marcelo and turn on your webcam and mic. But in any case, maybe while he joins, you can answer.
Yeah, the question here is really saying that, you know, are we putting a leaching plant there? So it's, John, we have to really validate the metallurgy test that was done there. So it's not, I mean, there's some hints, and Marcelo, maybe you can give these hints, but it's too early to say that we're going to put in a heap leach plant there and just mine it.
We have some previous tests of leaching made in Jaguar's pilot plant. The results are so good, maybe more than 90% of leaching, but there's no trace of this. There is no any information, just one report with a number of resources. This just gives us an idea, but there is not auditable this number. We have to carry out a big program program of metallurgical tests to check this. But geologically, when I look at the paragenesis of the ore, the paragenesis is quite simple. Just pyrite, pyrrhotite, and free gold. Okay, this is just macroscopic information. There is no other mineral. The mineralogy is quite simple. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. How hard is the host rock?
People asking about production. we can mention the historical there. There was a hard rock test there, right, Marcelo? As I recall. I remember reading something about it, but again, guys, this is very preliminary. I would like to, in phase 2, and again, it will depend on finance, but I would like to push for a metallurgy program there and do a proper metallurgy test, because that's going to drive the hints for the phase 3, right? So that's what I can say right now.
How consistent is the low-grade halo around the high-grade intercepts?
Yes, there is now. We could just mention this, the high-grade interceptions in a low-grade envelope, but we are pursuing the ore shoots, the very high-grade ore shoots. But from now, the drill grid, the information that we got from the drill rolls, it's not possible to define and high-grade ore shoots. We have plans to start mining an open pit, considering the mineralized envelope, and then we will carry out a program to intercept very high grade in depth, and then measure some potential of underground mine. But it's too early to say anything about these very high grade ore shoots.
Adam?
What was that? Sorry, I couldn't listen.
Hello?
No, you're in mute.
In mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So just to build upon Campbell's question in regards to Pedra Branca, and you showed some intercepts of low grade, sub-gram low grade, and then the multi-gram, I don't know if you want to call it high grade, but call it 3 to 5 gram, which seems more typical of the intercepts you're talking about. So I guess my question is, or to build upon Campbell's question, is how consistent is that sub-gram halo, or was it tested for in the historic holes, or was it not tested for?
Marcelo, did you hear that one?
This test is the test about the pit, the pit design.
No, it's a question of where the drill holes assayed fully to include the potential identification of low grade, sub-gram per ton low grade around your multi-gram intercepts.
Douglas, please help me. I didn't catch exactly this question. Sorry, guys.
No, actually, I can actually answer. So yes, so we looked at that a lot, and there is some results that we did those tests. So what Marcelo and the team tried to do throughout this program is basically, you got some trench results, and out of that you try to basically look at the results and say, wow, there is higher trench, higher grades here, so let's put our C hole here and let's see if we can connect this. And again, this is not something, I mean, if you're talking 4301, you need a certain amount of holes per in the grid to be able to say this is what it is. But with such a small exploration program, yes, we seek to do that, and that's actually the basis for our resource model here, and that's why we have so many pockets. But effectively, in order to convert that to, I would say, a resource, you have to do a higher density drilling in these areas. And that's why Marcelo said you're seeking for these ore shoots as we go along on the phase 2. And that's why I believe it's going to be much more exciting.
Is it possible to, you know, if some of the historic, do you have the historic samples and core?
Yes, yes, we have, and we carried out a program to validate, to re-assay the ore intercepts on these historical drill holes.
So could you also re-assay for around the historic, around the high-grade intercepts, you know, and quickly build the potential for a shallow, low-grade resource as well?
Yes, yes. Not 100% of the historical samples, because there are 8% of them that we didn't felt secure to re-assay, because there are some gaps on the core. They are not identifying exactly the core boxes, the position of the sample. Then in this case, when we were not secure about the quality of the reassay, we didn't reassay. Okay.
8%.
Was the historical drilling, did they split the core for assaying?
Yes.
They split it, so there shouldn't have been missing intervals in theory.
In theory, yes.
In theory, yeah.
It's in theory, yes. But so I'll tell you what happened. So Jaguar went into the Pedra Branca with a lot of money, and in the early, I would say, what was that, 2014, when Jaguar had a lot of money, and basically from there it was just a plunge down, and they run out of cash very quickly, and they have to all of a sudden farm out all their assets, right? And Pedra Branca is the one that they hold closely up till most the end, but the core shed, when we look at the core shed, it was very well capped, but some of the intersections, and actually somebody else told me that it was a government that was doing a program there. He actually took, and what we measured up, like 8%, but he actually took what we believe to be the higher grade gold intersections there, and he took it out, right? So I mean, yes, they look to be the higher grade, and no, we can utilize them, of course, because he just took it out. But we're talking, this is about 8% of it, and it would be nice to report out of here, you know, like 100 and something grams per ton or something like that. But which, you know, you kind of see in some of those historical reports from Jaguar, but we can't validate there, and we're going to do that on a phase 2. Yeah.
Right.
I lost my train of thought. The metallurgy. So Marcelo, you mentioned, I'm sorry, you mentioned it was pyrrhotite, free gold, and what was the third thing you mentioned?
Pyrite.
And pyrite. Okay.
Yes.
Do you have any? Is it too early? Is it too early to say, or have you guys done any metallurgy just to say, you know, roughly what the percentage of free gold is?
No, it's so early. But when we see some visible gold, the visible gold is obviously it's free, and sometimes out of the sulfite zones are inside the quartz veins. We have the quartz veins with free gold into the quartz and some small lines of sulfides. We have a long way to to go. Then we are in the early stage. There's some theory that in this high grade of regional metamorphic zones with high amphibolite, they burn the sulfides and the gold. There are more probability to be free, but this is theory. This theory. This is not compromised in the deposit.
Yeah, and Adam, just to add a little bit more color here is that, like, we're talking a 12-kilometer trend here, right? Which we did as maximum as we could. So when we look at it and say, wow, there's a lot of work to do, but with our phase 2, and once we start to define these areas, actually connect them, that's what we expect. That's when we start focusing these metallurgy tests, because you don't need to do in all area. I mean, you could, that's what it looks like, because Marcel looks at this whole thing and say, we just should do a whole open pit here. That's what it looks like. But again, that's what I mean. Like, we have to be efficient with cash, and we'll see how much we're going to raise on phase 2, and then we're going to see, okay, let's focus the work in these larger pockets and quickly add up those ounces.
Mm-hmm. Just switching to Big Kid, that historic high-grade zone that was mined 100 years ago, was that a breccia or a skarn or a massive a manto? Was that why it's so high grade there?
Breccia, yeah, it was actually 200 meters in between the breccia and the big how do you call the big brother there. So you go up in the mountain right there's a shaft, and they basically went down and following the breccia. So that's what it is, and that's what they reported. And actually, we look at that data and say, this is quite interesting. So that's why we decided to put it out there. So they took it out a lot of copper out of that thing.
Why was that? Why is that so? In a breccia, you normally don't think of the grade being so enriched. What's the thought process there?
Good question. That's exactly one of the questions we haven't say. We really need to do some more exploration work here. There's a lot of drilling. There's a lot of unknowns here, but there is a lot of potential. So the answer is we don't know, right?
Sometimes in a porphyry, you can get late stage pegmatitic type eruptions, and I've seen this in formations, I should say, that can be high grade, but not that high grade. Relatively narrow, at Cananea, I've seen it, and at Ajo, I think I've seen it, where you can get that kind of thing, but it's really more of a pegmatite than a breccia.
That is true, yeah. So the answer is we don't know. The answer is we don't know. We need to do more work. Big Kid is really, really early stage. And again, there's a lot of drilling that was done there. And if you look at this breccia zone that they're trying to make more definition of it, there was a lot of intersect drills that was put there. It's actually, I think it was 40 drill holes that was put in at the breccia zone there. And there's looking for this mass, but it's what I said. It's early stage. So we put this data into our the leapfrog here. We're looking at this in different ways, but what we want to do with Big Kid and to be very feet on the ground here is we want to look for this depth. So there is something there. Okay, there is a huge potential for something there. So we want to look for that, but we don't want to chase down and burn through cash on Big Kid and say, oh, well, didn't find anything. No, it's really being very efficient. Say, well, let's put a few drill holes here, see what it is, see what that story tells us. Let's look at the surface. Let's do some more channel samplings. Let's do some more trenches here and see what the real story, what the asset wants to tell us, you know, and seek out what the strategy for the Kodiak copper exploration, what they did, and just do that along the course of, you know, a little bit on this summer here and a little bit more next summer. Right, so that's it.
Something that might be a bit more, I think Big Kid is a little harder to get your arms around here from this diagram. Do you guys have maybe a conceptual cross section that you guys have built?
No, not here. It's in our website, but yeah, we put it on our website. We put on the last press release here. So what we would like to do. So I don't have it here on this presentation, but yeah.
So as you were saying, you know, is the thought to drill, you know, an RC hole, you know, maybe right into the guts in between Big Brother and the breccia zone?
Yeah, exactly. Because of these copper results here at surface, you're getting higher grades at some of these copper results here. So it's right in between these two zones.
Maybe RC it, you know, for the first couple hundred feet, or RC the whole thing.
Depends on how much we're gonna raise for it. So we're discussing this right now, and I'm more in favor to the idea that we should put in a couple of deeper holes and see what we can find there at the deeper of the breccia zone. And also depends on what it is there, that will drive us the next program. So I would say we're probably not going to put a lot of RC right now, but we'll see. Okay, we'll see. I mean, this is to be discussed. Okay, but
if you can get a, you know, if you can get a rig, Doug, you can save a lot of money by RCing for, you know, the first couple hundred meters. You know, if you're trying to get in deep, and then just cap it and wait for a core rig.
Exactly. No, you just hit the what is the issue that we have right now, right, with Big Kid getting a rig, right? So the sooner we do the finance, the sooner we can start scheduling these rigs and say what's available out there, and just make sure we do an efficient program. So we don't want to let's say burn through cash here. So we'll do what we can with the cash and being efficient during this summer. But if we can't do it right now, we're going to do it next summer, right? We're not going to burn through that cash. We're going to raise it. We're going to put some drill holes there. If it is RC, that'll be great. But if it's not, it's because there's a diamond drill that's readily available that I think you know, we can use to get some momentum here on Big Kid. So anyway, yeah. So there's all of these aspects, right? You have to consider. You have the business, you have the location, you have, you know, summer, and here you have the influence of winter as well, which is very tough to do. I mean, you could do winter drill holes, but it's way more expensive, right? You know, we got another asset. You know, we have the bright side of having two assets. You know, we can do a little bit of work now during the summer for Big Kid, the rest of it on the next summer, which was exactly what Kodiak Copper did. You know, Kodiak Copper they did some drills and say, oh, this looks interesting. Is it shattering skies and everything? No, but on the second summer, on the following summer, they drilled deeper and say, there you go, we found it, right? So that's the plan.
All right. Very good. Let me pass it on to Erdy. If he has any questions, and then we'll circle back to Campbell in case there's more questions from the audience.
Thank you. I have just one quick question. When we look at the old drill holes at Pedra Branca that you guys drilled, have you terminated those holes in the mineralized structures, or?
Yes, quite a few of them. Okay, we were looking at, and I think we'll be able to talk more about this, and I think you'll be able to see more about this once the resource is out. But from the results themselves, yes, they ended up. It's open to the in depth, so it's really open in depth. It's actually open laterally, it's open extension. It's going everywhere, so it's very positive.
Yeah, clearly I can understand you guys obviously trying to push the lateral extent. Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask the down dip potential too. Thanks for the answer.
Yeah.
Campbell?
Yeah, sure. Just one more question. Are there any minerals in addition to gold that you will be assaying for the infill drilling samples?
We actually did a multi-metal test on a few areas here, but what we got was essentially gold. So it's not looking like to be the PGE. I think these questions come it's actually quite funny. So close to us, both here in Canada and in Brazil, you got Kodiak Copper, who is part of the Discovery Group, and in Brazil you got the Valor, who's part of the Discovery Group. So Valor is chasing the PGE, and it's the quite of a kind of very close project to us in Brazil. And our mineralization, what it looks like is that it's just gold. There's no doesn't seem to be PGE influence right there. Anything to add, Marcelo?
Yes. We have completely different geological environment. The ultramafic rocks is 2.1 giga years, and the greenstone, the Troia greenstone that hosted the gold deposits is 2.5 giga years. It's two different events. Okay, completely different. And the ultramafic rocks are newer, are younger than the Troia greenstone that hosted the gold mineralization. Okay, but they are geographically close.
Okay. We've reached the top of our hour. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. The replay will be available in about an hour, and you can also, you'll be able to find it at amvestcapital.com/replays, and you'll also get an email. And please share your feedback on your way out, or for those of you watching on demand, there's a way to provide feedback if you watched it there. So with that, I'm back to you, Douglas, for to close this.
No, thank you very much. Thanks everyone for joining, and hope to see you in the next very, very near future.
Thank you very much, and have a great rest of the week. Good day, everyone.
Thank you.